journalist Tara Muller is here with us in the studio. Obviously, it's a heightened security. We've talked about it, and we do every year in New York City, especially since 9/11. Is it different this year?
It is a little bit different this year. We're coming off the heels of a few attacks, so law enforcement is probably being extra vigilant. There have been department warnings issued by the FBI, Counterterrorism Center, and you've seen the president out and about talking about the security situation. So I think people are a little bit more on alert, but there's no specific credible threat, and I think that law enforcement has been out there noting that to the public.
They have, especially the other day there was, well, quite frankly, especially if it wasn't true, which the NYPD says it was, and an irresponsible local media report which said there was something specific and credible. NYPD said no, there's not. Now, what I think also is different is after San Bernardino, people start to say, well, if there's going to be an attack on the homeland, it doesn't necessarily have to be on an iconic place, somewhere we think of. We're talking today, for example, about Times Square or Rockefeller Center here in New York, or these big places around the holidays that a lot of tourists are gathered. It could be somewhere random, which scares people even more, right?
Right. It could be at a hard target, which tends to be government buildings, military facilities, or a large target such as a stadium or right. a large gathering place.
Those are hard targets.
Those are those are harder targets in that there are security cameras and measures in place usually.
What is Times Square? Is that a hard or soft target?
I'd say it's a soft target just because if you're talking about sort of out and about pedestrian traffic areas, that's anybody can really do something in most of those places. I mean, there's high law enforcement presence, but I remember a quote actually during 2014 by the Prime Minister of Australia when there was a plot being discussed there, and he said really these days all you need is someone with the will, an iPhone, and a knife
that's the problem.
to do some sort of attack. So depending on the scale of the attack, that's what you really need to be worried about. Lone wolf attacks can fly under the radar because they might be one individual and they might not be able to catch them communicating.
And that's the hardest part, because if Times Square is a soft target in general, it's probably a harder target on New Year's Eve. If I'm just thinking about it logically, Rockefeller Center is probably a harder target to target if you're a potential terrorist on the day they're lighting the tree. I mean, these are the times we're told to worry the most, but it's the most difficult time to plot an attack. So should that change our own mindset, the way we think about it a little bit, that it could be anytime, anywhere, unfortunately?
Well, really, things can be anytime, anywhere because there's an infinite amount of soft targets.
Right.
So you need to remain vigilant, but really what matters here is what law enforcement and intelligence agencies are doing behind the scene. The collection of intelligence, the sharing of the intelligence with the right departments and agencies, the monitoring of individuals who are being watched, that's what's going to prevent these individuals from carrying out an attack.
And well, some people have said, the former police commissioner here, Ray Kelly, is one of them in New York, that is not being done as well as it was in the past, that their tools have been taken away from them. Is that true?
Well, there are greater challenges now because of technology. One of the issues that's been spoken about a lot recently is the use of encryption. So if a terrorist or a cell or an individual is communicating with other individuals through a form of communication that the government, the FBI cannot access, obviously it's going to be more difficult. So that's one of the challenges we see.
That'll be a huge debate next year in D.C. But the other challenge is whether or not they should have access to, say, monitor